This early morning, let's explore, despite what is written on the screen in front of you, silent illumination, and then meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to meditate. Oopsie, what's going on here? To meditate like a Jedi. Can't stand the hair in my face. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso, the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, brought to you by the kind folks who support my channel on Patreon, typically for about the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. Today, this morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as General Leia Organa upon Ajan Kloss under the guidance of Luke Skywalker, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, all you gotta do is type that question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. One moment. So this has not been, I failed to enter the chanting notation, so I'm going to enter chanting notation on just 4 lines in the hopes that you'll pick up the momentum. Perhaps you'll be quicker on the uptake than I am. I've got the Barbie song stuck in my head. Okay, so let's chant. Natural awakening is inherent within everyone. It is not something produced through practice. Hongzi eloquently described it as a vacant and open field. The lucid lake and our original home. So let's explore this for a moment. In my experience, Buddha nature is simply a Iron Age way of describing the function of our autonomic nervous system. Hear me out. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, our sympathetic nervous system is wired for a sensory acuity, not to concentrate, but to perceive things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. What the Buddha referred to as mindfulness. On the other hand, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, our parasympathetic nervous system is wired for both physical relaxation and mental release. This, or what the Buddha referred to as meditation. So mindfulness and meditation are hardwired into the autonomic nervous system of our spinal cord. You can't get any more basal ganglia than that. So that's pretty awesome. And when it comes to, once you understand what's going on with that part of our brain, meditation and mental health become much more of a reality. Let's continue. The point of Chan practice then is to regain our original freedom by clearing away our emotional afflictions and negative habitual patterns. So the negative habitual patterns in classic Mahayana nomenclature could be described as pride and jealousy. I would prefer to describe them as competition and clinging. Whereas our emotional afflictions would be hating, craving, and confusion. Let's continue. I.e. craving, aversion, and ignorance, and not a tendency to perpetuate them, the accumulation of which have concealed who we are. That collection of 5 attributes is sometimes described as the 5 mental poisons, which can be transformed by our practice of prajnaparamita into the 5 wisdoms. Let's continue. Its silent illumination cannot be practiced nor actualized, because it is something intrinsically full and complete. Others cannot defile it, it is thoroughly pure to its depth. Precisely at the place where purity is full and complete is where you must open your eyes and recognize it. So we don't need someone's blessing. We don't need a magical gesture or a secret handshake. Each of us already has a functional autonomic nervous system. Each of us is already equipped physiologically to practice the mindfulness and the meditation that can make us the peaceful and then consequently loving person that our dog already thinks that we are. It's not a question of faith. Faith is a landmine. Don't step on that. It's a question of practice. When we're able to seize upon the tools latent within each inhalation and each exhalation, then we have discovered the hunk of gold that was sewn into the hem of our garment, unbeknownst to us, that has been with us the entire time, our Buddha nature. Let's continue. By the way, the sold into the hem the whole time, that comes to us from the tradition of Karma Chakme Rinpoche. Let's continue. When illumination is through, self is relinquished completely. When experiencing is clear, our steps are then solid and grounded. So, don't make the mistake I did of relying on belief and self-hypnosis to get rid of your sense of self. Don't chase self-extinguishment. That's just a trap. When we go through life mindlessly, following every impulse or a slave to our neurotic agenda, we are under the sway of self. When we are vulnerable during every inhalation and release during every exhalation, it doesn't take very long at all, less than a week, for us to increase our experience of centered spontaneity. Not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity. And the more we allow our choices, utterances, and deeds to float like a leaf upon the river of this centered spontaneity, the more we are free of self, the more we are in harmony with our Buddha nature. Elsewhere he states the correct way of practice is to simply sit in stillness and silently investigate. Deep down one reaches a state where externally one is no longer swayed by causes and conditions. So we see here the key is externally. In a movie, a football movie with Gene Hackman and Keanu Reeves, The coach says to the quarterback, "You remind me of a duck. Above the water, you look very serene. Underneath the water, you are paddling frantically." Similarly, as we sit in meditation with an impeccable posture, tonifying our impeccable posture as we breathe in, relaxing as we breathe out, superficially, we look like a Buddha statue. Internally, we are vulnerable to whatever sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like we perceive. We're also vulnerable to our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We're vulnerable to the full spectrum of human experience, but we're also able to release it to a certain degree with every exhalation. This is not a hypocrisy. This is not pretending to be something we're not. This is traversing this path. This is practicing the Buddha's Eightfold Path. What if liberation was merely the practice of the Eightfold Path, and enlightenment was really the mastery of the Eightfold Path, wherein we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. In the pond of Dharma, the duck's webbed feet, are always paddling. There is no time when you stop noticing and releasing, experiencing and processing. You never stop doing that. So the need to do that is not an indictment, despite the beat-faced accusations of those entrenched upon the path of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, and cruel. Let's continue. The mind being empty, it is all-embracing. Its luminosity being wondrous, it is precisely apt and impartial. Chan practice is about investigating our intrinsic awakened nature. So, Chan, sometimes pronounced John, is simply a transliteration of the Pali word jhana, or the Sanskrit word jnana. So, which is just another way, arguably, from a certain point of view, synonyms of meditation, or meditate. So the word Shan, or Chan, because of the accent, is exotic to us ignorant white folk in America. Us pasty barbarians screaming Yahoo from our Ford F-150s. But it just is a fancy Chinese pronunciation of the Sanskrit word, which we translate as, dun dun dun, meditation. It requires us to remove the obscurations of attachment and negative habitual patterns that conceal our inherent freedom so that we can express it in the midst of daily life. I do believe here we go. Oh, excuse me. Oh. The transliteration of the Chinese characters Hongzi used for investigation are Jiu and Kan. Both have the meaning of partaking, integrating, and thoroughly penetrating. Sometimes he combined the word investigation with the term Ti, which means embodiment or experiencing. For Hongzi, investigation is not an intellectual process, but embodied, actualized, and lived experiencing. Thus, while silent illumination as our original awakened nature is something intrinsically full and complete, we must personally recognize and live it. In other words, so even though people ask, well, if meditation is the dynamic of our autonomic nervous system, then why am I spending time sitting on my tuchas with impeccable posture? Because doing so gives us the opportunity to align our volition, our intention, our will with our factory installed wiring. Silence is the metaphor of the wisdom of emptiness. So acquiescence, formlessness, spaciousness, and stillness. These are all Hongzi's poetic terms for the Mahayana teaching of selflessness. Illumination refers to the wondrous activity of the selfless wisdom that in Buddhism is none other than compassion. Just as wisdom and compassion are inseparable, so are silence and illumination. These are simply two aspects of our natural awakened Buddha nature within. Now, you could say, how does illumination seen as love or compassion or empathy? And the answer is going to be highly unsatisfying, so brace yourself. All language is symbolic. How does that work? If you go back through great oceans of time, once our distant and remote ancestors were able to perceive, the next evolutionary step was to recall past perceptions and to anticipate or imagine future potential perceptions, either those they dreaded or desired, those that meant to prey upon them or those that they could prey upon themselves. This is the root of our mind. It is the scaffolding upon which everything else is hung. So it should come as a little surprise that every language that humans use to communicate is symbolic. But wait, there's more. Especially languages that are ideogrammic in nature, i.e., Japanese, Chinese, and Korean, as not to mention some of the languages in the Mesoamerican peoples as well. So when you look in a dictionary, you'll see an initial definition and then alternate definitions for almost every word in the dictionary. The longer a language lives, the more layered, nuanced, and varied the meanings of its words become. So, yes, despite the despair of every wannabe linguist, it would be simpler if every word only had one definition, regardless of context. But that's not the way language works. Let's continue. They are simply two aspects of our natural awakened Buddha nature within. Oh, and that's where we conclude this morning. Oh, excuse me. Woof. Oh. I'm going to tap button 9 and take us now to the very latest iteration of the Easy Meditations Proto-Zen practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. Together, let us train the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. And now it is time for our main practice. Yesterday morning, some random thoughts occurred to me about a pair of mean girls, or girls who were mean to me, in high school. And then because of the way I'm wired, I began wondering what it would be like if when I was in high school, I knew what I know now. And in a moment of vulnerability or pain, of their vulnerability or pain, I was able to be helpful to them. How would you help someone who was kind of mean-spirited and lazy-minded? Well, you couldn't take a grandiose view of meditation. You would have to take a very easy view of meditation. Perhaps that is what our ancestors did when the men and women of both Soto Zen or Kao Dong Chan, forgive my pronunciation, coined the phrase, just sit. Viewed literally, it's a dead end. But figuratively, it's a deceptively wonderful practice. It is an easy, complete, rapid practice. Here's how it works. With each inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the adjective tal. With each inhalation, we do our best to sit in a tall posture. We don't want lifting our chin. We don't want to sink our chin. We want the top of our head pulling straight up. Traction, as it were, between our skull and our pelvis, as if we were determined to pull our head out of our ass. Because our hands are resting in our lap, it is inevitable that we will breathe less from our sinuses, our throat, and our chest, and more from our lower abdomen. So that's effortless, just because of the placement of our hands and the vertical placement of these two words. So as we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the word tal. When we exhale, we do not force the exhale, but when we notice ourselves exhaling, we can silently and mentally recite the word relaxing. Thus reminding our intention to harmonize with our body that already wishes to notice and release in harmony with the natural phases of our breath. We do not have to choose how slow, fast, shallow, or deep to breathe. Our body and our posture decides that for us. All we got to do is go along with the ride. Now, this is not just kicking back. There is some exertion. There's exertion in sitting upright. There is exertion in remembering to relax. There is exertion in choosing to be vulnerable to every perception, emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagining that cartwheels across the stage of our mind. Let's dig in. Playing with these words and these actions will not make our past disappear or our problems go away, but it will dial down our habitual resistance to the resentments of the past, the fears of the future, and the frustrations of the present. The goal here is not to stop feeling emotions. The goal is to stop resisting them. That doesn't mean we run around like an angry toddler. It means that we're able to make peace with our circumstance and our mind and our body. there is no distraction. Whatever we think or perceive or recall or imagine or emote or intend serves us. It's something to notice and something to release. It serves us. If you have any questions at this moment about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, now is the time to type your question in the chat window. Let us seal our practice with wishing love. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could support this channel on Patreon for about the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. Or not. The choice is yours. Either way. In approximately 2 3/4 hours, I intend to return to lead today's mid-morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.